marketing, or at least learning what tools we can use to make more decisions about our marketing. So for those of you who are like following along at home, if you've got your computers out, go for it. I'm gonna give you some point and click stuff here so we can actually go into the tool here and try some of these things. Feel free. I think the pace is gonna allow for that. A little bit of an intro for me. As I said, I'm a channel consultant. I've been at HubSpot for a very long time. And I've really introduced myself here. I got a lot of feedback that my hair is too short in all of my photos. So I tried to find one where I have like long hair, and this is actually, I use this photo, it's like my headshot when I'm trying out for auditioning for acting roles, right? So this one got me, I'm like bar sausage guy #2 in Little Women. The new Little Women movie. Yeah, new Little Women movie. Yeah. You can see me. I'm holding a plate of sausages, selling beer. I also play a French aristocrat where like this thing's all gone and I'm in a suit. You can't really see me in that shot, but I'm in that movie. Yeah, I'm selling beer. That oddly filmed in Boston, actually. That's supposed to be New York. Back to reporting. Okay, so here's the 4 things we're gonna talk about. I really want to take us through, like, pretty straightforward here. I want to take you through 4 different reports that I think are either underutilized or can actually be customized. So in the case of analytics views, we're talking about really customizing some of our more common reports here. And I want to take you from a practical exercise here in how you can use these, what customizations you might make, and then, again, what decisions are we making at the end of these. So, attribution reporting. Attribution reporting is something at HubSpot that we were really, really excited about when we released it. This is an incredibly powerful tool. I think a lot of us don't necessarily know what to do with attribution reporting. So attribution reporting is the ability to look at a specific attribute inside HubSpot. Oftentimes that is, we created a contact, or even better, that contact became a service qualified lead. They became a customer. The things that we really want to accomplish with our marketing. And then we go back and we use different scales and different ways to apply influence for those attributes. So where were my leads who became customers before they became a customer? What interactions with my website, with my content did they have for that specific attribute? So that's what HubSpot's doing here. We're looking at a property. Typically we're talking about contact properties, but we can look at really a whole slew of different attributes and then assigning value in that historic process that they went through and converting to becoming that thing we're looking at. So if we do want to build one of these, if you're following along, here's where we're looking. So we're in reports. We go to reports. We create a report, and then we're doing an attribution report. If you want to try one of these out, I really encourage you to do it. The first one that I would have you try out here is, what asset title created the most contacts? What we're doing with a report like this, and I want to use this as an example to talk about attribution reporting. What we're doing here is we're saying, really, what parts of my website did people interact with before they became this attribute that I'm looking at? So when you do this standard report, the first thing you're going to see is just they became a contact. So right away, we started to break away from that like leads or visits, leads, and contacts sort of reporting. That's kind of the baseline for a lot of our high-level decisions. And we started to look more specifically into, yes, I care about not just they became a lead, but they became a contact. And then if you want to play with that a bit more, I would encourage you to look at the lifecycle stages in there. And we can look at lifecycle stages like became a customer. Now I can start to get a report of not just what's driving traffic, what's driving leads, what how am I doing on customers, but really what was the interactions that someone had before they became a customer or they became a marketing qualified lead. Along the way, one of the things that's really confusing about attribution reporting is the way that it's actually like applied the information here. So a couple things I want to talk to you about here are these different models. So you can try some different models, and I've got a really helpful slide here that starts to show us what's happening. Oh yeah, this slide builds a lot, so I gotta make sure not to click too many times. I think that's right. Yeah. Here is what these attribution models are doing, right? This is one of the most confusing things, in my opinion, inside HubSpot. It's also one of the most powerful tools. I think you combine that together and you end up with a tool that people don't use because it's powerful and confusing. So here are these attribution models. The first one you're going to end up with, if you are doing that, which of my assets has created contacts, attribution report is going to be the linear model. And that applies, effectively it says like, here are all the interactions across this, what we're talking about contacts here. But at this point, we're probably talking about customers or sales qualified leads. What were their interactions on their way to becoming that attribution that I'm looking at, to becoming a customer? I think one of the things I'd like you to try if you are playing with attribution reports for the first time, or you want to get some more insights from attribution reports, I would actually move to a first touch model. The first touch model is going to start to give you more information about, again, what attracted these visitors to your website. So in an inbound marketing world, really anybody who's running a website, if we're thinking about marketing in general, you're trying to attract people to your website, but not just people, right? You want to attract folks who become a marketing qualified lead, who become a customer. You really only care about those folks. So you can look at the traffic across your whole website, but really you're only interested in that if it's the traffic that drove customers, drove leads. This attribution report is going to help you do that. I like playing with the first touch interaction there. And then you'll see some of these others, like they're kind of clear what they do, right? The U-shaped applies it a little more on the front end, the back end, the full path spreads it out across there without the full interaction getting as much points. Mostly you're going to be playing with first interaction, linear, and last interaction to get a sense of what's really driving the leads that you care about on your website. So I said with each of these reports I'm going to take you through, we want to think about what we're doing with this information. So attribution reporting. It's showing us which website pages really kind of are doing the work for our marketing, are driving traffic that matters. So the first thing I want you to do is just think about, have we really thought about these pages as some of our most influential pages? Have we necessarily given these the credit that they need? This might bring up website pages that you weren't necessarily thinking of. One example of attribution reporting that I always kind of go back to and I think grounds this concept is when I work with services agencies, so I work with a lot of HubSpot partners. When we run attribution reporting on what website pages folks were interacting with before they became a customer of theirs, we often see the meet the team shows up really well rated in there. But like meet the team website pages are kind of, I don't know, I think a lot of us kind of discount them. They feel kind of like silly, you know, there's like, hopefully there's a dog in there. And we kind of discourage, we kind of discount those pages. But here's the thing is when you're a services agency, especially, that's what you're selling, right? You're selling the team. So once we run attribution reporting on services agencies, as an example, we often realize that there's a lot of value in those website pages. So we might give them a little love. We might fluff and buff those. It makes sense to give them more time. We might also start to realize that that is probably one of the last stops someone makes on the decision to do business with us. So we might want to line that up with some of our best fit content offers. That might make sense to have a bottom of the funnel offer on it. If it's not your services page, which usually goes with like a get a quote, bottom of the funnel offer, but maybe something else for your website. If you don't have something that is a good fit, you now want to think about prioritizing that website page and having a companion piece of offer for it. So something that someone can convert on. When we're talking about the meet the team, it makes sense to be like, well, you want to meet the team, we'll get you on a quote. We'll get you on a call where you meet the team. But if it's something about understand our product, and that's one of your most popular pages from an attribution report, you want to make sure that you have a companion piece that gives them the opportunity to convert on that website page. So you're thinking about attribution reporting, just first of all, different way to prioritize your stuff, giving you a better understanding of how to line up your traffic driving pages with your conversion opportunities, thinking about new conversion opportunities, and then drive new conversations. So thinking about ways that we can have ways for them to communicate with us on these website pages. So maybe live chat's a fit for you there. Maybe it is a get a quote page. Things to think about with attribution reporting. This is another one of these tools that we're looking at that just gives us a better, maybe more decisive view into our marketing. Speaking of which, analytics views. So analytics views, I definitely want to bring up during this hug because this is one of those things that people don't use a lot. It's really powerful. We don't necessarily use them. Also, analytics views, I want to talk to you about it now in case you maybe do want it a week from now. Because the thing with analytics views is they only start tracking after you've set them up. So you'll find, and actually I had a great conversation with the wider group about this recently, and we realized that they did a really smart thing in the naming conventions with their website pages where it set them up for success with analytics views. And we can go into that in more detail, or you could, maybe ask your HubSpot partner about it. But what you realize with things like this, the reason I bring that up is we realized that they had set themselves up for success in just what was a naming convention. They named their pages in this consistent way that made their analytics views work. If they didn't have that in place, then the analytics views wouldn't have worked. What I'm getting at here is that you might find out when you try to set these up that you need to do something to make them work. You maybe need to reorganize how your website pages are named. So if you're not lucky enough to have already done that well enough, you might realize in trying to set this up that you need to make some changes. If you're good there, you definitely want to set them up now because once again, they don't start tracking until you have created them. So here's where we're going in the tool. This one we're going to go to reports, we go to analytics, we're going to traffic analytics, and this is like your big sources report, right? This is that report that is one of the unique reports inside HubSpot that gives you an automatic breakdown of where leads and traffic are coming from originally when they visit your website. It can be a really powerful report. It's also a fairly unique report. So when you try to build this in custom reporting, if you try to do a sources report in custom reporting, you kind of can't. It's one of those things that has to be built into the tool. So to make that work, if you want to do something in custom reporting, that's why we're using analytics views. So if we go into analytics views and you try to toggle in the upper left to make your sources report look different, again, if anybody's following along, give this a try. If you see that there isn't really any opportunity in there to change that view, if you don't have any analytics views yet, you'll go down to manage, and you're going to be setting these up. Setting up analytics views, we have a bunch of different ways that we can do this. There's some high-level stuff that we can do from a traffic perspective, things like what country is someone coming from. If you have brand domains in your license, you can set this up for the different domains that you actually manage. But for most of us, what we're going to be doing here is trying to identify the different parts of our website that we want to treat differently. So if you run a shop on your website, if you have shop.yourwebsite.com, or if you have yourwebsite.com/shop, if you have anything in there that is like, this is part of this site that I want to treat a little differently, this is how you're going to build these analytics views. What you can then do with an analytics view is you apply that to your sources report, and you now have like a different cut of your sources report. This really powerful tool that you really can't create anywhere else inside HubSpot, this ability to apply original source at the contact level, to report on it, to get like this nice graph that you really like. You can now make different versions of that really is a sources report that you care about. If there's part of your business that you really want to focus on, if it's a certain product that you care a lot about, you can build that sources report, add it to this tool, and then what do you do with it? First of all, you want to save it. So from the sources report, one thing I want to remind everybody is this special report can be brought into dashboards, but you have to do it in this particular way. So you need to apply a sources view to it, save it, and then save that report, add it to your dashboard. Now, as far as a business, that's like what you practically do with it, right? You're going to add it to that dashboard, you'll save this version of it, so you have this nice report. From a business perspective, what we're doing here are a lot of the things that we do originally with the sources report. So we start making decisions about where to spend our time. What has been driving the best traffic for us? What has been driving the most traffic? And what we're talking about here are things like your original source. Is that organic source? Is that a direct traffic? Are those referrals, social media? Now, the picture of what you saw when you're talking about your whole website is going to be very different when you're talking about now this slice of your website, if it is your shop or a specific product page. From there, you can start to make decisions about, what's working, what's not. Should we be spending more time on social media? We're driving traffic for that on this part of the site, but not necessarily for this part that we're looking at. Does it make sense for us to start to spend our time somewhere else? So the sources report is a great high-level decision-making tool when you're trying to decide, should we really be focused on driving more traffic, or has the time come for us to try to focus more on conversion rate optimization? Do we have enough traffic and we just need to give them a place to go, or should we be focusing more on driving traffic before we worry too much about nurturing these leads? Those same decisions can now be made for a specific section of your website if you're using analytics views and applying them to the sources report. All right, this one I had thrown there, the prospects report. I want to include this. This one's like a shout out for the sales folks, right? Prospects report is also like one of the most hidden tools inside HubSpot, and we're going to see this when we go find it. So the prospects report, we get a lot of like HubSpot users in the group. Anybody use the prospects report? We got the ABM people going, right? Yeah, you're all over it, right? The prospects report is something that ties well into the account-based marketing strategy, and that's actually where you can generally find this tool. So using the prospects report, right? The way that you find it, first of all, is if you are an ABM user inside HubSpot, so if you're using account-based marketing strategy, under your contacts tab, you've actually got the target account section. That's going to lead you to the prospects report. Now, if you're already running an ABM plan, you're probably pretty familiar with the prospects report. But if you're not, there's a couple things that we can think about here. First of all, you might like to know about the prospects report. You might be wanting to use this tool. The other thing that you need to understand is that it's hard to find if you're not using ABM. So one thing, like on the how do we do this, you're actually going to go in the search bar in HubSpot and search for the term prospects. This part of the tool can no longer be found through like the normal tree, like the navigation inside HubSpot, unless you are an ABM user. So the prospects report. Kind of a unique report. I wanted to bring it up here because I think it's unique. I think it's sometimes underutilized, and I wanted to do something for the salespeople. The prospects report is meant to be exactly that. It's supposed to give you an idea of what prospects you have visiting your website. What we're doing here, we need to be careful about this. I'll get to that in a second. I want to be careful about this information inside the prospects report because it's powered by IP information. So it's anonymous. It can be really helpful. It's a layer of information that we get about contacts before they actually convert inside HubSpot and become a contact. But IP information is something that we need to be careful with because it's based on the internet service provider. It's based on where you log in to access the internet. So for the longest time, that was pretty reliable. People were in their office visiting, a vendor that they might need from their office computer. But now so many of us work from home that IP information is definitely something that we want to kind of consider and reconsider what it is. So a few things that you want to do with the prospects report. We'll get into what to do with it here. First of all, you need to clean this thing up. You're going to get a bunch of internet service providers that show up in here. You'll see AT&T and you're like, oh, wow. AT&T has been on my website. Like, I cannot wait to see. It's going to be the biggest deal we've ever sold, right? AT&T. Okay, so hopefully AT&T is on your website. Okay, cool. That would be awesome for you. AT&T is probably not on your website. That's almost certainly someone's internet service provider. So you want to be careful. You want to start to filter out the internet service providers. That's someone who's just browsing from their house. We can only present at the IP level the name of their internet service provider. So take that with a little bit of caution. I really hope a couple of you got AT&T on your sites, but probably it's the internet service provider. Filter those out, and then start to star your favorites. If we go into the prospects, so we're going to see a few things. It'll show you how many visits you're getting from that IP. So how many people from that office are actually on your website, and then this becomes a really powerful, or I think a really helpful prospecting tool. So if you are on the new business team, if you are prospecting, especially if you are like a BDR, SDR, if you're one of those people who has to go out and collect the initial information on your prospects and load it into the CRM, the prospects tool can be this really helpful tool where HubSpot uses our insights data, so all the stuff you get from like LinkedIn pretty much, and will automatically populate it into a preview of the prospect. You can add that, create a company with one click, and now the company's got most of the information filled in. Just the stuff that you would find easily online, right? We are not like a Zoom info or anything like that. But it's the information that someone in a BDR, in like a sales support, someone who's just doing their prospecting, would spend a lot of time going out, finding like the company size, finding their location, what their industry how much money they make, and start to manually impact that into the CRM. So it's a really helpful tool there for getting going. Mary, do you have a question?
I have a question online. April's having a hard time finding it. Is it available in all licenses?
I can check. I believe so. I believe the prospects tool has been around. The thing that I want to make sure that everyone understands about the prospects tool is that it is actually hard to find it in the navigation. So April, if you're looking for it, we do want to have a search in the upper right of HubSpot. And then it should show up, it kind of shows up oddly in the results there, where it's like, because it should be a tab inside HubSpot, it shows up in like the top bar there.
That you have it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And it is all products in play.
Okay.
Yeah. HubSpot has gotten so big lately that like I can almost never answer that. I have to check. Prospects report. I was like, I think that's kind of one of the things I'm saying about prospects report. It's like one of these old pieces of the tool that it maybe is undershown to folks. Yeah. What else do you want to do with this, right? So we're showing you who's on your website. We're giving you a pretty good chance at it. It's a really powerful tool for prospecting, for PDRs, for these people who are loading up the initial information about a company. Just it's a time saver. But you can also do some like practical things with this. So first of all, if you are running an account-based marketing strategy and you actually want to go out and target these folks. So if you know one person's on your site, you can probably guess pretty well that there might be 2 or 3 more who are interested. So this is a great starting point for your sales team to kick off and say, let's go and find other points of contact in the site, in that business who are targeted. One of our account-based marketing targets, our primary focus accounts. Along with that, if you're in an ABM play again, or even if you want to do kind of a hybrid of ABM, you might start thinking about, is there more that the marketing team can do? Hey, we've got AT&T on our website here. Should we like put together a specific proposal for them? Should we be thinking about maybe a more customized email template? Should we be thinking about what person is working with them and what relationships we have? The last thing I think you can do with the prospects tool, and I have it second to last here, but is use this as an opportunity to reconnect. If you have closed lost deals that are now represented in your prospects report, that deal that, it didn't work out last year, we couldn't get the budget, we couldn't get the decision maker 2 years ago, whatever it might be. They were on our site recently. That sale was almost on the finish line. Like I know who to connect to there. I just reply to that last email. This is often like maybe a different angle, a new way for you to think about those connections and who you're talking to. Prospects report. You get a couple of choice little wins in there. I think it's an interesting tool to talk about. I would definitely encourage you to check this one out.
Hey, Evan, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you connect this tool to like any smart content? So like if you know somebody's from a known prospect company, can you show them different content on your webpage?
So it's an easy answer, and it's no. Here's like the other thing.
They have to be a known content.
Yeah, the thing about the prospects report where it's like it's got some cool features. I think it's interesting. I wanted to bring it up here because it is powered by like a different tool. It's powered by IPs.
Yeah.
And when it's powered by IP, we're talking about anonymous contacts. And what that isn't in HubSpot is connecting the cookie on their browser to their unique tracking URL inside HubSpot. They're not a contact. None of the contact powered stuff connects with the prospect tool. It's strange because it feels like it's like right there, like it's like, oh, you got that's a company record. You're showing me where they were on the site, but it's not the same as capital C companies, and it's not the same as capital C contacts.
So you couldn't do that with a custom object? You couldn't do a workaround?
So you can do some. No, you can't. It's not directly connected. It's like it's a list of contact properties that you can then create inside the company record. And then you're cooking now. You've got a company record, you've got a contact record. Some of the power of what we do with IPs and that anonymous tracking can be done through smart content, but that's just the same stuff that says they're from this, they're using this device, or they're from this country. The anonymous smart content personalization, which is another really powerful and underutilized tool inside HubSpot. That's like the same engine behind it, but it does not connect to the really good stuff of personalization that we think about, like ABM. Okay, so let's talk page analytics. So page analytics is another one of these kind of undersung, like not the sexiest tool inside HubSpot. I use this tool all the time to make decisions with people. Page analytics, what we're talking about here. So if we are in reports, traffic analytics, and then from there we can go into the pages section of traffic analytics. So that same section of the tool we were talking about, applying a analytics view, the sources report, we can go through and look at pages. Pages is a tool inside HubSpot. It's related to a lot of the other tools that we're using in our marketing, right? So our Google Analytics, like our baseline of like what's driving traffic. The thing that I really like to do in page analytics is start to get a sense of what's driving traffic month over month. And I like to use this as an example. You can do it with website pages, but I think you can make some really powerful and some really good decisions if you do this with blogs. So again, if anybody's following along, we are now in traffic analytics. We've gone from the top and we've grabbed pages. We're going to filter that down to blogs. And then we want to get just a sense of what's driving traffic month over month. So we should look at just the last quarter. The reason we like to do that is we want to filter out using page analytics stuff that was maybe like a flash in the pan, was like kind of boom or bust. So there might have been, we're talking about blogs here, so let's continue to talk about blogs. There might have been a blog post that you wrote at one point in time that, I don't know, maybe got picked up by somebody, got retweeted or something, had a huge amount of traffic, and then still got that traffic on its overall traffic. But, it didn't really resonate there with Google. It might have had some artificial traffic that drove it up. It's not driving traffic for us month over month. For those of you who have gone through and looked at page analytics here, and I cut off my screenshot, but one of the things that you're going to notice is it's almost always some of your older website pages, especially when we're looking at blogs or we're looking at pages that drive traffic month over month. You will almost always find here, if you've been at it for a little while, and we're talking about the people who've been blogging for a couple of years, you got maybe like 100 blogs or so, maybe more. You will almost always find that the top performing page in your page analytics tool is from like 2 or 3 years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago, right? And first of all, that's really important information. And I think for some of us, it should be like a little scary and a little eye-opening, because one of the things that I want you to do, the decision that you should make with this page, with page analytics, when you realize that, is you got to be looking at those website pages. Those evergreen website pages are what's actually driving the traffic for your site month over month. And every time I use a report like this to review it with people, not every time, but very often, there's this moment where people are like, that website page is what's driving my traffic? Wow, I wrote that like 4 years ago. I guess it makes sense. It's a good title. I kind of nailed that one, but like, haven't looked at it in a while. So what you want to do with these is, first of all, include these pages in a website maintenance scheme. You want to keep track of the last time, it was published in 2017. You need to go check to make sure, first of all, it looks all right. Does it look like your normal styled website pages? Does it have like appropriate references in there? Maybe something like a pop culture reference that you put in there in 2017, maybe not appropriate anymore, right? The images might have broken, the links might have broken. It maybe doesn't have your best fit content offer on it. Hopefully you've made a bunch of new content offers in the last 5 years. That might just have the original CTA that's still sitting on it. You want to think about how these pages, again, these are some of your most powerful pages. These could be great pillars for a pillar content strategy. If you're someone who's thinking about the larger world of SEO and how your linked pages work together, think about your top performing website pages. You probably want to include a hyperlink in there that incorporates your current pillar marketing strategy. Along the way, we think about some of the other stuff that we've looked at when we've identified some of our most powerful pages. So create complementary content offers. If you've got something that's one of your services or something that you talk about, but you never really considered creating like an ebook or a conversion opportunity on that, probably makes sense for you to prioritize it. What you're going to see is that, and again, if we go back to the pages report and you scroll through this, you'll see, and I don't know, maybe if you got like 300, 400 blogs, you might have scrolled to page 5. But if you're like most of us, and you got like maybe like 100, 150 blogs maybe, you're going to see a precipitous drop off around page 2 of this report. And what you're going to realize is that it's about 20% of your website pages that are driving 80% of your traffic. After this, it's going to go from like, 500. It's different for all of us. I'm looking at a HubSpot demo account here, so we're lucky enough to have thousands of views in a month. But for a lot of us, it's probably going to be like maybe like 1,000 or so for some of these top ones, and then quickly go down to like 100, and then we're in the double digits before you know it. And then after a few pages, we're in like the 1, 2, 0 views. So these website pages are your most important pages. You want to make sure they're maintained. You want to make sure that they've got complementary content offers. You want to make sure you use them in your pillar content strategy. And then I want to throw in this last tab. And this last tab is a bit of a can of worms here, but I want to talk to you all about it just in case we got like people who like maybe they did all the things that I've talked about today. So I wanted to throw you all something. So let's say that you've been blogging for like 3 years, right? You do have 200, 300 blogs, right? And you see this precipitous drop off on your blog posts. So yeah, that couple of those posts from like 2017, 2016 are still driving some of the most traffic month over month. But when you get to the end, you're scrolling through just pages and pages of zero traffic. Those blog posts have been published for a year. They had their shot, and it just didn't work out. Link, Google didn't quite get you on the niche there. Didn't get the original toehold, make it work. But you spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, probably a lot of money in creating copyright for those website pages that are not driving traffic month over month. And if they've had a year or more to give it their shot and it just didn't work, and you've got enough indexable pages on your site, like you've got hundreds of indexable pages, you're not really desperate for more indexable pages, you might start thinking about your lowest performing website pages, the pages report, as a copy farm. This might be an opportunity for you to go through and start thinking about, maybe I'll take 3 of those blog posts that I wrote on dog grooming in 2016, and I'm going to combine them together. I'm going to take the 500 words, because all of our blogs in 2016 were 500 words, and I'm going to copy them together. I'm going to mix and match them a little bit. I'm going to end up with a 1,200 word blog post now, and it's going to incorporate my new styling. I'm getting that copy for pretty cheap. I'm recycling copy here, and it's going to incorporate my new SEO and keyword strategy. I'm going to publish a new blog post kind of for free, or at least on the cheap, out of my old copy, because I've just got hundreds of old blogs lying around, and they might need a new lease of life. Maybe that one will get that toehold now. It will drive traffic, and one of those posts could end up being one of my 80-20 that drives the majority of my traffic. That little bullet point is like deceiving. I know I just said a lot there. That's like a complicated strategy I talked about. But if you made it this far with being like, yeah, I know all this stuff, that's a good one to consider, like a content consolidation, cannibalization strategy. It's something to think about. The pages report can be a really powerful tool for you to do that. Those are the 4 reports I want to talk about today. That was it. I feel like we went pretty quick. Did anybody have questions? Yes, hi.
I have a question for the prospect report.
Yes.
Can only certain users within your account, like have access to that?
Are you not finding access to it?
Well, I have access to it.
Yeah.
But like I just said something to one of my sales guys, and they're like, I don't think we can see that. So
Maybe
they have a
usually.
certain permission, like user permission.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of user permissions that you can, and like they've gotten more and more complicated. I don't know if Prospects Report is limited to that. It might be included in like one of the bundles of like sales permissions.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I'd probably just check, because Prospects Report is really hard to find.
Yeah.
I might just check with them to make sure that like they are trying to find it in the right way, that like their search is happening. And then yeah, I can't answer your question right now if it is a user permission, but if not, you can check are you a super admin?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, you've got everything, right? Yeah, you maybe want to look through their permissions to see if there's like a sales permission that can be turned on.
Mm-hmm.
Prospects report, like again, it's like this like old report in HubSpot that's still kicking around that I find really interesting. So I'm not exactly sure where it lays in the world of user permissions. But I would check to see if they're trying to find it the right way. It's hard to find, which is why I think it's interesting to talk about it. I said I'd be the first person to ask a question. HubSpot perhaps. would you perhaps like a water bottle or a notebook?
I'll take the notebook.
Nice. This finally leather bound notebook. Did anybody else have any questions? We're hanging on
That's
site.
fancy.
Yeah, look at that.
No, she put water bottle.
Yeah, you want.
So,
I have a lot of those.
I should know this.
I stole the stuff from Lighter, by the way.
What is the default attribution model?
Smells
Yeah, so I think the attribution models, we're gonna get stuck up, but that one's got a lot of clicks in it. It's linear is the one that's gonna show up to first. If you're going through and doing an attribution report, but you're also gonna see that attribution reporting is built into a lot of the other reports like campaign reporting. And I think if you're in campaign performance as an example, I think it leverages first touch interaction.
I think you can change it if you have enterprise.
You can change the default across.
No, like when you're in the campaigns tool,
Mhm.
if you have enterprise, I think there's a toggle where
Yeah,
you change,
is.
you can toggle through the models. If you don't have enterprise, I think it's only first interaction in the
okay,
campaigns
that's
tool
what I'm
at
thinking of,
least. Yeah.
Yeah, this slide is one that like, and you can tell I like it because it doesn't even match the styling of the other slides. It's like super helpful. That's why I was like, I gotta get that one in there. Really helpful in understanding it. Yeah, I do believe it's linear, but yeah, as Kelly's saying, I think some of the others should get stuck.
Cool, nice. I love that slide.
All right. I'm not surprised. I'm just gonna hand out like mouses and stuff.
Frank doesn't need a prize, he'll have
No,
a beer
I
after
was that
that.
mouse.
Yeah.
That's all right. What's up?
So what do you know about HubSpot maybe making changes based on what we're gonna see with GA4 and all those changes? Do you have any insight you can share of what HubSpot's gonna do?
No, I don't know how HubSpot is going to respond to GA4. You always see us align with Google Analytics in some ways and change our tools. If they come up with any really powerful tools coming out of GA4, we're probably going to steal that from them, like we always do. A couple things I'd say about Google Analytics 4 is that HubSpot does support it. So for anybody who's thinking about the move to Google Analytics 4, the deadline for that is July of next year, but you're probably thinking about it, maybe like Q1 of next year. HubSpot does support it now, so you can go ahead and convert over. You can also run them side by side if you want to, but it's not something that we recommend because it's just like slowing down your website with all the traffic codes on it. Now, so just that's like my take on GA4, but I don't know yet. I don't know what's cool in GA4 yet. Like I think we're just starting to see people make the switch like this fall coming into the winter. And if we see some really cool stuff in there, like yeah, certainly you're gonna notice HubSpot has like a similar feature pretty quickly there. Yeah.
All right.
I don't. Can you use those page reports? Like, can you make a custom report that somehow ties the page analytics together with the attribution? So like, if I want to find my pages, like, okay, maybe they're getting really low views, but they have really high percent of my MQLs that are viewing them. Is there a way to like marry those two things up?
So no, mostly no, but I think the hope is that if you can filter down the attribution report effectively enough, it should start to present to you the website pages that are really driving. Like when I mess with an attribution report and I build it first based on contacts, like the list of website pages is like, it's too much. You're like, oh, every page I have. But then when you start to filter it down to MQL, customer, like the higher lifecycle stages, it very quickly does drop down to like only like usually, and again, like gross generalizations, when we gotta work with something, like 10, 15 website pages.
Right.
So you will get a lot of those same insights of, you'll notice it'll be like, oh, that old blog post. Yeah.
So would your advice be to just kind of like, this is what I do, but I just wondered if there was a less manual way to do it, is to, you look at your pages report and you see like, okay, maybe we can retire those. But hang on, let me go check my MQL attribution to make sure it's not a page that's on there.
I think when I talk about retiring website pages and blog posts around that, the traffic month over month, whenever I suggest that, we're talking about zero traffic website pages.
Okay.
So there is absolutely a possibility that like, and I zero save. If it was one traffic, there could be that one traffic that became an MQL and became a customer.
Yeah.
That would be wild, and that would really, I'd be eating some crow there. But I would start with zero anytime I think about retiring website pages. That being said, if you keep note of what gets presented in your attribution report, it's not a long list once you get into like the deeper, more significant lifecycle stages. It's worth knowing those 10 website pages, or write them down, print them out, put them on a spreadsheet, like, just for like that kind of case, like, because you could imagine these two strategies aligning where it's like, oh, we should clean up this website page, and it's like that one page that drew that one good lead.
Are still ranking for relevant keywords though, even if they're not driving traffic, would you still like refresh the content and take it down and republish it?
I think we would, like it's unlikely that it is ranking for anything valuable if it's driving zero traffic month over month. If we're doing it,
Or if it is, the search traffic isn't converting.
Yeah, it's not
clicking
converting.
through,
It's not-
coming over.
it's not, no one's bringing home the bacon, right?
Mhm.
That being said, we also do, if we do it within HubSpot or if you do it on another platform, we're 301 redirecting those pages typically. And then you pick maybe the primary page and then change the SEO elements on that and then cannibalize one or two other pages. So one automatically gets redirected. And if you're going to be prudent with that process, you should go through and redirect just in case. Plus, then you get like that, it's probably 0.0 something. There's not real numbers here, but a little bit of authority from that redirect in the first place. You might as well.
Nothing else online?
Nope, nothing online. Anything else in the room?
Evan's gonna hang out, so if you think of something.
You can stump me. I love questions. So nothing too weird or too odd. We'll get into it.
The only housekeeping issue is that I will be sending out a recording and his slides, so stay tuned. I'll send them out probably tomorrow afternoon.
And we don't have a Q4 on the calendar yet.
Not yet, but
But it'll be in the fourth quarter.
Thank you. It's usually mid-November for anybody who's wondering.
Yeah.
Pencil it in.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.